here's what we're going to do. Just as we're starting, I'm going to try to honor your time because I know some of you are at lunch. Some of you are at work and you're working very diligently while at the same time you're watching or you're listening. So let's do this really quick though. Let's introduce ourselves, because the important thing for today, the only way that you guys are going to get anything out of this is if we have some interactivity, because otherwise I'm not going to just talk. I'm not just going to talk about a tool. What I want to do is I want us to actually have kind of an experience of how this tool actually works, because I believe that resilience is a really important thing for coaches, but it's also going to be something that is going to be really important for your clients. So you can actually utilize these tools for your clients. So here's what I'd love for us to do. Introduce yourselves. Tell us where you're joining us from, what you're excited about, and really what you hope for your takeaway maybe is during this time today. And I'll be quiet and let you guys share. And also look in the chat. If you don't want to use your microphone or whatever, you can absolutely utilize the chat. But I prefer that you use your microphone and your webcam if you have one. And I'm going to also stick in the chat the link to the tool that we're going to be using today. So I'll be quiet and you guys go for it. Rock is joining us from Portland. Go for it.
Yep. No, I'll start. No, this is Rock from Portland, Oregon, and I am really new to life coaching. I have coached for many years in a corporate context, but as far as life coaching is concerned, totally new. Um, I signed up for the certification program, and so I'm just here to listen and I'm here to learn from folks who have been doing this for a while. So I'm really looking forward to hey Shomer, yeah. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. Um, not new to coaching, but very new to life coaching.
Awesome. Who else would like to share?
Hi, my name is Sandy. I'm from New Jersey, and it's pouring rain over here, Paul. It was pouring rain last night when you talked to us, and it's pouring rain again. And I know they say rain means blessing, so you are a blessing to us today, Paul.
Thank you. And I'll receive that too.
Okay, my name is Sandy, and I guess I am coming to allow more lids in my life to be taken off so I can move forward, because the resiliency piece spoke a lot to me last night. And I said last night, you helped me take off the crutches, but now I'm back today to take off more of those lids that were put on me, those lids about how we learned from you about the money thing and different things like that. So I'm here today to do that. So I just retired, so I can't make an excuse anymore, which I said my job, but I'm here today to learn more so I can actually move forward. Yep.
Awesome. Thank you, Sandy. Anybody else? Jay's joining us from Northwest Arkansas. How's it going, Jay? Who else would like to share? Please introduce yourself. Again, this is going to be really lame today if people don't interact, because it's going to be all based around some tools that I'm going to give you. And so participation is going to be like so incredibly needed. Otherwise, it's just going to be lame. And I don't think you guys want it to be lame or want me to be lame today, right? So anyway.
No, Paul. How's it going, everybody? I'm absolutely happy to be here as always. I've done a lot of practicing lately with people that didn't mind letting me get into their heads and their lives and their space. And I'm definitely looking forward to more practice. I had a session with Mike last week, and he actually helped me, just pick out some things that, some objectives that I need to work on to get my goals accomplished when it comes to coaching and starting my practice. And so I'm working on those things. I cannot wait. It's going to be probably like difficult, I would say, because it's, the business stuff, but I look forward to the challenge because there's nothing at this point in my life that I feel can get in the way of me in this calling. It doesn't matter what, adversity may come no matter how bad I may feel one day, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally. It's not gonna hold me down for too long, at least, because I feel that this is my purpose in life. This is something that I need to do in order to help the people that I've always been saying ever since I was a child that I wanted to help. Like I genuinely love helping people. I marvel at our existence. I appreciate our simplicity and yet our intense advancement among the world and its genomes and things like that. So I cannot wait. Oh my gosh. Like I'm super motivated every day. And just like you were saying last night, I don't have to I don't feel myself, having difficulties waking up in the morning and doing the things that I want to do and learning the things that I want to learn in order to, bring this calling into fruition, because this is what I'm meant to do. And I'm glad that, I'm here sharing this experience with you all and learning from you and learning from the other coaches. And I just want to say thanks and I look forward to it.
Cool. Who else would like to share?
Sorry, what are we sharing right now? I'm
Oh,
Jasmine.
you're just introducing yourself and keeping it simple as far as that's concerned.
Okay, great. Well, it's great to be here with you guys. And I love your energy, Paul Dabdoob. How do you say your name?
Well, the interesting thing is you pronounce the B at the end, and the true Arabs do pronounce the B at the end. But I think my family was trying to act like they were from Louisiana, so they wanted it to sound French, so they didn't pronounce the B at the end. So we say Dabdoo, but a true Palestinian is going to say Dabdoob, and they'll actually say it really fast. But Americans, we're gonna pronounce it a certain way, but they do pronounce the B at the end. So you technically did. You technically would pass the test because you actually spoke it more accurately than I actually do. So anyway.
Very good. Well, I'm half Persian. My father was from Iran. So
Wow.
I might just keep doing that, Paul Dabdoob.
There you go.
Yes, thank you for the background. That was interesting. So I am a solution-focused coach, and I've been doing that about a year and a half. And I was a correctional officer. I was a teacher. Now I'm a substitute teacher. And what else? I have a bachelor's degree in health and wellness and psychology. So it provided me some structure and some foundations for how people work, how people perform best, what gets in their way, things like that, least to greatest. And I'm just happy to be a coach. I actually, though, something happened last night. A ministry school from a pastor that I coached about 2 years ago, he runs a ministry school. He asked me to come and talk about coaching because he thinks it needs to be in the church world, in the ministry. He said, nobody talks like you talk. I coached him. He was amazed 2 years ago. He's been looking for an opportunity to kind of help me bring it into the churches. And he's kind of being a champion a little bit. He's like, we want this here. I'm going to figure out how to get this going. He wants me to teach people how to coach and how to communicate in that, kind of elevated way that we do, and more listening. And I did a little presentation. I turned them loose on a little coaching. Of course they were overwhelmed, but it also felt really good to do. So I'm pretty thankful to be in this world and just thankful to be with you guys here today.
So good. What great opportunities. Awesome. Thanks for sharing. All right. Anybody else like to say hello? Ashley's joining us from Hawaii. Hawaii. Don't we wish? Ashley's joining us from Ohio, and she cannot turn on her microphone because she's at work. So we want to respect that. Anybody else like to say hello? And then we're going to jump into what we're talking about today. Ashley says, yes, I wish. No knock on Ohio. I actually love Ohio. I've got friends on both ends of that state. Some of them who are Pittsburgh Steelers fans, and they're not Bengals fans or Browns fans. But I'm personally a Bengals fan because of Joe Burrow and my heritage in Louisiana. So Jen's joining us from Pennsylvania, working and listening in. Currently a recruiter, and I've been mentoring and coaching candidates for years and want to transition to full-time career coaching, and an Eagles fan. Well, you got Jalen Hurts. You guys are crushing it. See, I know all of the SEC players that gave us so much trouble at LSU during those years. So Ivan says, let's go Chargers. Don't we wish? I wish I like the Chargers, but I don't love the Chargers, especially since they moved to LA on us, Awesome. Well, cool. Well, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you guys a link to this tool. Now, here's the thing. There are a lot of various tools that you see in the coaching world. Some of them are not so great. Some of them are a little bit long and tedious. Some of them are a little bit, I don't know. I always work with executive people. I work with a lot of professionals and everything else. And so I need tools that are a little bit more results oriented and pack a little bit more punch. And so some of the tools that are out there are a little bit, I don't know, I think they're a little bit soft, and I think that they're a little bit tedious. And so sometimes I work with clients who are a little bit more straightforward and a little bit impatient for results. And so I need to cut to the chase a little bit more in the way that I coach people. So some of the tools that I like have that feel about them. They're a little bit more for professional use in the sense that they cut to the chase a little bit more, and they're a lot more results oriented. I don't do tools that are like, if you were a sea creature, what kind of a sea creature would you be? Because there's some tools that are actually like that. Now, I'll respect the people. There's apparently some people who identify with sea creatures. I really don't. And so what I try to do as a coach is I try to grab tools that are really practical, really simple. I can explain why they work, but they are still in the realm of asking questions. Now, granted, there's a lot of great tools and assessments that are out there. One of them that I'm going to actually stick in the link for you guys. I'm going to see if I can find it really quick. It's the folks at Positive Psychology that have a resilience tool. And they give it to you for free. So let me see if I can actually find what they're, I'm just going to stick their link in there, and I know that you can download it free. They're going to send you marketing emails and stuff like that. So just know, just so you guys have another go-to that's out there. Their tools are are good, but they're a little bit longer and drawn out. And I like them, but I don't think that they're really good to do during this time when I'm trying to give you some 3 ways of basically helping yourself and helping other people build resilience, because this is what it's really all about. And it's definitely a big trending topic that we have going on in the world right now, because what's going on is that I think that what's happened in the world in the last 30 years, particularly the last 20 years, is that we've gone so much after self-awareness, and we've gone so much after validating people's feelings that the pendulum needs to swing back a little bit, in my opinion. We've swung it so far that we've got people so into their feelings that they don't understand how to separate their feelings from fact anymore. And also what we're actually doing is that we're crippling people because we're validating feelings at such a high level, is that feelings are a great thing. Our emotions are a great thing when they are speaking truth to us, and they're not creating a lid for us when it comes to our potential. But now we've got people who have, I'd say this emerging generation more than ever, they're lacking in resilience. There's not a whole lot of grit. There's not a whole lot of stick-to-itiveness that we're seeing in this emerging generation. And so we're actually doing people a disservice, because sometimes your feelings aren't always speaking the truth, and they're not always trying to get us the things that we actually want in our life, which means that we've got to have a different reorientation that's going on, so that our feelings can actually help us accomplish and get what we want. Because sometimes the feelings actually need to follow us. They need to follow what we truly want, and we've got to hone in on what we really want until our feelings start matching up. And so, there's a lot of different things that we do as coaches. There's a lot of different things that I'll do with clients and different things to help them not get neutralized and not get them knocked out of the game because they weren't feeling like it one day. Well, here's the truth, is that some days you're not going to feel like it, but you still got to do it. Sometimes your emotions are really going to be working against you and not for you, but it doesn't mean that you stop, and it doesn't mean that you're doing the wrong thing. And so what that means is that sometimes when it comes to adversity, sometimes when our feelings are actually creating an inertia for us, then we've got to know what due north is. And we've got to also reframe how we're seeing things and how we see adversity and a lot of other things. Last night during Mentor Monday, and you guys can go back in town if you missed that, but I gave you a handful of points that were about what do we do to actually grow in resilience. And I'm going to take away from a few of those things today within the boundaries of this tool that I'm going to show you guys. And here's how we're going to actually utilize the tool. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share screen so everybody who's in the world can actually see what we are looking at over here. And hopefully everybody is able to see that well. Everybody can see what I'm seeing. Say yes. Yes, you can see it. Okay, cool.
Yes.
So what we're looking at, and I'll try to maximize this thing so that it's not so small over here. What we'll try to do is just let me hide that. Sorry that we're looking at a Google Doc together, but we're literally looking at the exact same thing together. So here's what we're going to do. First tool that we're going to talk about, what did I talk about last night, was the fact that we really need to be in a community of support. We need to be within a group of people that actually helps us accomplish what we want to accomplish. The reality is that most people are trying to accomplish major things in their life alone. And aloneness in and of itself can wear on a person, and it can wear them out. For every one of you right now who are experiencing adversity, and you're dealing with difficulty, and you're dealing with some challenges and moving forward as an aspiring coach, my guess is in most cases you're doing this thing alone. If you're talking about it with people who don't understand what you're getting ready to do, they don't know why you're trying to do something new with your life, they don't know why you're trying to change your career again, or however they're looking at things. But in most cases, we're working with people who don't and doing life with people who aren't necessarily going after new things in their life, who aren't necessarily understanding where we're coming from and the importance of passion, the importance of the values, the importance of calling. Not everybody's living their calling. I would say that 1% of people actually know what their calling is on the planet. And still about 80 to 90% of people who do know what their calling on the planet is are not doing it, and they're not making measurable moves towards those things. That's what I can tell you out of my own destiny coaching and some of the research that I've done on that end. And so what that means is that we've got to create or join a community of support as coaches, but we're also going to encourage our clients to do exactly the same thing, because it's easy to quit when you are alone. You know what? It's not easy to do. It's not easy to quit when you have people alongside you. You know how hard it is to quit when there are people alongside you in the trenches doing the thing that you're doing, and the passion with the same values, feeling the same moral imperative. How many people do you know that won't allow you to quit because they believe that there is something greater than themselves that's actually calling them towards the destiny that they're working towards? And if you're alongside those people, and let's say that you're in the trenches, one of the things that I know is family's great, friends are great, but sometimes when you're in the battle with someone, you hear these stories about people who are in the trenches with people when they are actually in the battle with someone, when people spill blood together, when they are kind of scared together, when they're being challenged together in the heat of battle. That is what they'll talk about, a band of brothers. They'll talk about a camaraderie that probably many of us will never understand unless we're under fire together, but we also know that what the common objective is and the common goal. And so that's what we're really talking about, is finding a community that really looks like that. And so as we're looking at this thing right now, what I would say is that you can start out by writing down a list of the 10 grittiest people that you know. And when I say grittiest people, I'm not talking about the people that you think are necessarily the most successful. I'm talking about people who have intestinal fortitude. We're talking about people who have stick-to-itiveness. And what we're going to encourage, and this is what I want to encourage you, but I'd also encourage you to share with your clients what they would do, is that we want to contact these people and interview them. And what would you interview? Well, what are you going to find out? You're going to find out some important things. Where did they learn grit from? You know, the people that I know who have grit, they're really, I've gotten the chance to sit down with some of these people, and I find out the things that actually make them tick. I find out what are the things that are keeping them in the game, what their why is, because your why those values that are driving. And I did a thing just recently about how do you help people find their why, or get in touch with their why again. When people know what their why is, because this is why is important for every one of you. When you know what is most important to you, it makes your decisions really, really easy. Even under adversity, it allows you to not be conflicted about what you're supposed to do in moving forward. So as you're interviewing these people, find out what their why is, because there's something that actually kept them in the game, something otherworldly, something bigger, something that was more important than the adversity and pain that they were going through in whatever it is and was in their life. So look for those people. They're going to have gnarly stories. Ask them where they draw their strength from in times of setbacks. What are we doing is that we're learning from these people. And you know what? You can start building a community. Listen, we do have a Jumpstart program that has an extraordinary community of coaches. Some of them are actually on this call. You can talk to them. You can find out what that's like or whatever. I'm not here to sell you on that. What I really am trying to help you really grasp in this thing is that you've got to find a group of people. If you're an aspiring coach and you do not have that right now, you always have an invitation to join our Jumpstart program and be around these people. We created Power Lunch to try to create that. But let me say this, what's the difference between our Power Lunch group and our Jumpstart group is that I don't know that all the Power Lunch group, because I don't know them, I don't know that there's that intensity where they have made a clear, irrevocable decision to become a coach. And that's the difference maker that I would say with the Jumpstart people, is I know they've made a clear, irrevocable decision. I'm going to become a coach, and this is what I'm getting ready to do. And the people who have made that decision, you're not just sharing passion with them or interest, you are sharing something larger, because you need to find a group of people ultimately. Now, if you can't find that group of people, at least find people who have purpose and they are connected to something bigger. They're not just doing life just to do it. They know it's clear that they have an established why in their life, and that you need to have a culture that's non-threatening, that's supportive, where we're not trying, because here's what happens. It happens in the coaching world. It happens everywhere, where people act like they don't have crap going on in their life. They act like it's not difficult. They act like they have no struggles. You want to be in a group of people where it's okay to share struggles. You want to be in a group of people that also is really comfortable in celebrating your success, and they're not challenged, where you don't feel ashamed on both ends. Because here's what's happening in this world, and it's not okay. People are ashamed of sharing their struggles. People are also afraid and ashamed to share their success. So people live in this mediocre spot, and it's like, hey, we need to be not challenged with people who are great. I want people who are great. I want people who are better than me. This is what we have to ascribe to, and we have to put ourselves alongside people who are farther than us, better than us, on the same level than us, and also with some people that were a step or two ahead of us, that we can really create a community. You can create this community, and you don't have to have 30 people in it. You can just have a few. I have a few that are in my real close circle, and I spend time with them, and we hack out some things. We hash out things. We don't allow ourselves to fall into mediocrity. We don't allow ourselves to withdraw and to hold back or any of those kinds of things. It's people that I know that I can trust with my struggle, because they won't hold it against me, but they also won't allow me to stay there. That's a community that I'm telling you that we need to go out and seek. And so if you know some of these gritty people already, I'm not saying that there's some big entrepreneur or a CEO, they might be, but if you can start to find those kinds of people, and what we're talking about when we say living in community, it means that you're going to have to inconvenience yourself to do life with these people, at least on a weekly basis, minimum, not check in once a month or whatever, because we can't wait that long. Like, we need to actually spend time in community. Now let's go to the second part of the tool, because what we're going to do in this part of the tool is that we're going to ask some questions. And here's what we've got to do in part two of this. Part two is that we've got to connect. And there's a really important reason why I say this. And because I am after results, and I'm not after playing around with this thing. We want to help people get results. So what we want to do is that we want to connect people's what's the point what's the point? What's the point of life? What's the point of this? What we want to connect is their why. We want to get clear to people's why, what their values are. And we want to connect that point with a point of suffering. And here's the reason why. The why that people have in their life is a primary driver. Your why, even if you're not connected to what your why is a primary driver in your life. You know what's also a primary driver in your life? Pain, your perception of pain. Pain is a greater motivator than pleasure. So what we want to do is that we want to find people's why, and we want to relate it to their greatest pain. If we can actually bring them in sync, someone's why, what's most important, and their why is usually a person. There's usually a person not far away from that why. Their why is typically connected to a person, and if we can connect that with suffering or pain, then you know what we do? We get a superpower motivator for someone. So here's what we're going to do in terms of questions. If you look at that, that tool, let me ask you guys, and anybody can share on this. What is, if you could think about it, what's most important to you? What's your primary why? And it might be family, it might be your kids, might be your spouse, might be anything. What's your primary why that you're aware of in your life? What matters most to you in your life? Who'd like to share?
I'd like to share.
Go for it.
Freedom.
Freedom. Could you define that
Part
for
of
me
freedom.
a little bit?
Sorry?
Define freedom for me as you, when you say freedom, how do you define that?
Free to be all I want to be. I have the potential to be free to contribute, free to receive, free of every type of programming and external influence that would put me in a box or minimize me. So it's just that fullness of life on every level and as a person.
Got it. I appreciate that. Who else would like to share? What's most important to you? What's your why behind your why that you know is a big driver for you?
I'll try.
Go for it.
For me, it's financial security, because with financial security, that covers the gamut on like my healthcare for me, my family, if we want to travel, don't want to travel, cover different expenses. Just know that I have that comfortability of covering all bases like that, not having to worry about finances and being able to give or help out if I can in that aspect, that component. That's my why.
Awesome. Jay says connection with people I love. Jennifer says my primary why is to create a life that offers the financial freedom to work and live in the way that I choose while doing work that is impactful and life-changing for others. Samantha says I need to help others get unstuck because I've been stuck in my life. That's a big why. Anybody else like to share?
Yes, this is Ashley Morris here. I can relate to Samantha. I desire to help people get unstuck and live the abundant life that we are created to live. And my why is connected to my pain and my testimony. At early on in my life, I dealt with not knowing my purpose. I didn't realize that I had a purpose. Went through many trials and traumatic situations. However, through that, I realized that I did not have to remain stuck. I could overcome my circumstances. And that's what I want to give back, just help us live life to the fullest. So yes, I'll stop there.
Awesome. I see Lynette's on here. Hey, Lynette, what's your why? What's your biggest driver? Do you know?
My biggest driver is actually staying alive. It's pretty much just not allowing the negativity to consume me, so I can actually help others and provide for my family at the same time. So just motivate others and push others to do their best.
Cool. Thanks for sharing. I knew you'd have something good. Awesome. So let me do some follow-up questions to this, because one of the things that you guys need to be aware of is if you ever look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and I don't have a picture of it right now, but you guys can Google it. You probably heard about it. You probably learned about it in high school. What it really says in Maslow's hierarchy of needs is that the stuff that's on the bottom is always going to be the primary needs for people. that are security kinds of needs. And then the other ones are going to build off. So some of you as coaches are trying to sell people on live your best life. And that's not even tangible for most people. Most people don't even know what that means. So one of the things, not just on a marketing side, that people aren't really in touch with that. They're in touch with what's the most important to them and what's actually driving their decisions on a daily basis. So what we'd understand is that for most people, security needs, a house with a roof, being able to eat, being able, those basic kinds of needs, the basic essentials are going to be primary drivers. And if those things are not met, you can't really get to another need, because that's actually what people are thinking about. You can't think about self-actualization, which is purpose and all of that other stuff, fulfillment. That's really at the top, and it's after these bottom things are taken care of. So what we have to understand is that where people are in their life, we've got to go after those needs. Those are the most important why for today. And it also leads to being connected to suffering really easily, connected to pain really easily. So when we ask these questions, as I'm asking you guys, the follow-up to that, when we know what your why is, so we'll start back at the top. Let me ask a follow-up question for everybody. Who matters most in your life, and why? Who is your who that's connected to your why? What's most important to you?
Hey, if I could just jump on, as soon as you said who, it was like this light bulb. We're like, oh, I know. My children actually matter the most to me in my life. And it makes sound kind of weird coming from someone like me, especially considering in the culture, the husband is first, things like that. But my children really, really matter the most to me, because I feel that they're at a point in their lives that they are like sponges. They're malleable. They can be just like any other child, really. They can be molded into, this being, of change. And if I can be like a beacon of hope for them, if I can inspire them, if I can encourage them and educate them in a way that's, that's like how I've been motivated to care for people and to just be there, no matter what, then, that's a real ringer for me. Like, they really matter so much to me, because I know that after them, is their future generations and things like that. And I want most for them is to create a domino effect that's positive, instead of like, detrimental or life-changing in a way that we go back millions of years, as opposed to moving forward as a people.
Let me ask you a follow-up to that, and I'm just going to ask you to be brief on the follow-up. If you step back because of adversity, how would that stepping back negatively impact them?
Honestly, I feel like it would be detrimental, because kids, like I was saying before, kids, they are impressionable. And if I didn't do my job in making sure that they, have the values, instilled in them, and just the priorities of taking care of needs and taking care of family and helping people selflessly, then they probably turn out to be, like these, like I'm going to say, like the undesirables, the people that function in this human extinction, behavior type of way.
Got it. Thank you for sharing. Who else would like to share? Who is your who that's connected to your why? And I'm going to look at the chat as well, if anybody is putting anything in there. Who'd like to share?
Sandy, I like to share. I would say me. I think I'm not being selfish, but I say that me is important, because if I don't take, like, as far as wellness, mental wellness, or my health or whatever like that, I can care for other people, but then it gets dry. Like, what is my real motivation? But if I'm healthy and I'm well in my mind, my body, my spirit, and all those other things, I believe that that will trickle down to those that I'm dealing with. It could be my children and my why, my children, my family, my neighborhood, my community. And if I'm not, because it's eventually I'm going to get tired. Like everybody's happy, everybody's well, and then I'm dry on the inside. So I look at me first, and then it goes outward.
And if you don't take care of this me part, how would those other people suffer?
How would they suffer if I take care of me?
If you don't take care of that, you said, so my why is me first in this. So if you don't take care of that, like, let's just say that something happened, you're like, this is too hard, I'm not going to take care of this. How do they suffer as a result of you not taking care of what you know is most important?
They're gonna look at them. They're gonna look at it and say that it's not. How would I say? If it's not important to me, why should it be important to them? It's not even reachable. It's not doable or anything. They're gonna look at it in a negative way. They're not gonna get anything out of it. They're gonna say, well, she doesn't care. Why should we care? Like if she got there, then we're gonna wind up going the same way she's going. That's not what they're looking for, and that's not what I should be, I would say teaching them or demonstrating to them.
I love it. I love it. Anybody else like to share? If there's a who behind your why, share who your who is. And you can either turn on your microphone or throw it in the chat widget.
Okay, I'll go. My who is my children and my family, because, I want to provide for them and make sure that they have what they need. And not only that, but to make sure that they know that they're loved, and also to raise them right and everything too. But if I don't have the means to be able to put food on the table, my children will suffer. And so my husband and I really, we don't want that. Of course not. We're good parents, but, anytime, that old saying, a friend of mine, she told me, she said, do it afraid. And I've always remembered that, so even if you're afraid to go online, afraid to do, a product, afraid to do what you're doing, a webinar or whatever, do it afraid. And I think about my children first and say, if I don't do this, then that means I'm going to have to go back to a 9-to-5 job. And that means my children won't have food on the table. So I do it anyways. I do it afraid.
Yeah. And just in what Teresa's saying there, I want you guys to see the power of a value of a why that's connected to suffering. And especially because it's connected at a base need in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, because you know what? A need of food and provision and shelter is always going to be a higher motivator and a greater pain than, I didn't fulfill my life's purpose. You know how I know that? Because how we behave right now in the world, how we behave in our life, there's probably some dreams that you guys have given up along the way. There's probably been some things that you've been committed to more than what your dream was at certain times, and you washed out and you quit on things. If you go back in time, you can think of things that you quit. But when it came to food in your belly, or even more importantly, why am I asking the who? Because it's okay if some of you are like, hey, right now on this stage, I know that right now my who is me and some of those things. But when you have a who, when it's bigger than you, when you're looking into that face, I know for me as a coach, when I started out, my who, I knew who they were. I knew it was also about my role as a dad and as a man and what my calling was and understanding all those things. But at the end of the day, I can tell you about what I did as a coach, which was eating popcorn 3 times a day at my work because I didn't have extra money. If I was going to spend any money on my business or anything else that I was going to do, then it would take away from my kids. So I took away food for myself. I want you guys to know that I've actually lived that life. I've actually traveled across the country making money and not eating the entire time that I went all the way over there because I didn't want to spend any money. They're paying travel expenses and everything else. I would literally put my check in the bank from where I was if I could find my local bank, because in case something happened to me on the plane, I wanted to make sure that my family was taken care of. See, when you know what your why is, when you know what's most important, it makes your decisions really, really easy. And adversity doesn't really matter so much because the pain of my family not having what they're supposed to have is greater than any kind of adversity that I'm looking at. This is why your values and your why needs to be so crystal clear for you. And also that if you can connect it, and listen, I put some hardcore questions in here. Like, I didn't shy away from some of the questions that you guys can kind of ask yourselves in here. And here's what I mean by that. If you look at the document that I gave you guys, and I'm going to share screen on it. Who are the 3 people who will suffer most if you do not press through into your calling and your purpose as a coach? It might be who your ideal client is. It might be your family. And if it is, then what reason are you going to have that's good enough for you to quit that you will happily share with these people that are impacted by your decision? Listen, I'm going after this thing right now because it's not okay. We have to understand that the reason why we're not pressing through in adversity, the reason why we just quit things, we quit diets, we quit whatever thing that we started, whatever we quit before, is because we were committed to something at a higher level and we saw pain in it. And the only thing that's going to get you past the pain of adversity is that if you connect it to something that is actually a greater pain and suffering. Like if you know that it impacts other people, even if it hurts you, you would rather it, you know what, I'm going to press through this. Listen, some of you have been doing it for years. Some of you have been working thankless jobs, sticking to certain things, sticking to relationships, living in a certain place, tolerating certain things. You know, as long as pain has a purpose, we can actually see pain differently and not, because here's the reality is that you will sacrifice for what you want, or what you want will become the sacrifice. It's always a sacrifice at the end of the day. I'll say that again. You will sacrifice for what you want, or what you want will become the sacrifice, but sacrifice is always in play. Pain's always in play. Pain for what you don't have, or pain for staying where, pain for staying where you are. If you stay where you are and you don't go after it, that's pain. Or there's the pain of not having, and there's also the pain of what do you got to do to get out of your comfort zone to get what you want in life. It's always pain. And you know what people do is they choose the pain that they are most acquainted with and most familiar with. And so what are we trying to do? These questions, you can use them on clients. Listen, they're not questions that people can shy away from. This is hardcore in your face kinds of questions that I'm asking right here. And I would even dare to ask you today, what reason is good enough for you to quit and to step back? Because you're afraid of being turned down by someone who didn't want to sign a coaching agreement because you didn't want to put yourself out there. You're afraid of failure. Well, think of looking in the people's faces that you're here to impact in their life and telling them, man, I shied away. I loved what Sandra said just a little while ago. I'm not going to have any credibility to tell them to go after the things in their life if I'm not willing to do it myself. That's something to get me up in the morning, get me out of, hey, I'm feeling a little bit like, okay, it's a little bit difficult. There's a little bit of adversity right here. You know what wakes me up out of adversity every day? Right now as a business owner. Oh, the economy, or politics, and all this other stuff that people say and everything else. You know what wakes me up every out of the morning every day? One of those things, no matter how I'm feeling, is the fact that I've got a lot of people who are dependent on me in my life. People who are not just my family, but people who are dependent on me. I don't have a job. Because I'm an owner. So what I do actually matters more than a lot of other people, because if I don't show up, then a lot of people don't have food on their plate, especially my own family. I think about those kinds of things. So not only do I have a passion every day, because you can't always live by your passion, I will say that you've got to live by your purpose. Your purpose and your why is more important than your passion, because your passion's kind of like, well, I heard it said like this. It's kind of like your passion's kind of like the fire on the end of the candle, but the candle holder is actually what your purpose and your why actually does. It establishes something for your fire to burn on. But when your fire's not burning, you still got to show up every day. And there are some days that it's just like, hey, whatever. It's like, man, it doesn't matter how I feel though, because what's going to wake me up in the morning, if my passion does not, is it's going to be my kids. It's going to be the things that I know that I'm called to that are actually greater. And I can't look in those people in the eye. I can't look at my 10-year-old in the eyes and tell her to go after her dreams and to push past. Not like I have to tell her, because she's insane. She's insanely resilient. I think about her all the time with this. I can't look her in the eyes and give her a good enough excuse of why I didn't show up today. I'm not going to have a good enough reason to quit. Right now, what's keeping some of you from moving forward in your coaching career is that you have a good enough reason to quit. You don't have a big enough why right now, and you need to connect that. You need to sometimes connect that with greater suffering. Maybe you can deal with your own suffering, but you don't want somebody else to suffer. Maybe your who, why I asked that question, is that maybe you need to connect it with a person, with a people group, who your ideal client is or whatever. If your story does not resolve, it does impact the resolution of other people's stories. And this is why I want us to understand this, of why I'm asking in-your-face questions on here, because those are the kinds of questions that we have to ask to be honest. If we stop, if we quit, if we withdraw. A couple of other questions that you see on there. What's the most painful thing that doesn't happen if you quit? What is the cost of quitting? What is the benefit of quitting? Look at this question right here. I didn't ask it a while ago because I don't want to get too personal on this, but what are the 3 pains you will personally suffer most if you don't press through right now? You can also ask that about the people. What are the 3 greatest pains that they are personally going to suffer? Why is that important? Again, because pain's a greater motivator than pleasure is. It's not just about getting your ultimate purpose in your life. It's about understanding that people aren't as motivated by pleasure as they are with either getting out of pain or from pain coming to them or to other people. And so that's how we start to, in many respects, reframing adversity is really looking at it of, hey, I know this is bad, but this is a lot worse. And this is a motivator for me to get over my stuff and to press in and to make it happen and to do what I need to do. This is how we start to build resilience. We need some objects. Like in my life, I mean, what is this thing? To you guys, it's just a decoration piece for a video. If I showed you my studio right now, I can pull objects off the wall. I could parade a lot of things in front of you. You know what these things are? These are motivators for me. You know why? Because the only time that I have right now is this right here. It's only what's literally dripping through. It's falling through very quickly, and it happens very fast. The only thing I've got now, this is what's in this moment right here. And I'm very cognizant of that. I'm very aware of my humanity and all of those other kinds of things. I have objects literally that remind me of the frailty of life, or remind me of my purpose, my calling. I have things all over the walls. I have things that are objects. I have a pen from when my family dedicated me to the purpose that I was made for on this planet. And I will walk around with that little pen in my hand, and I'll remind myself, I'm here for something greater. I need objects. I need things like this to connect to my purpose. And not just because it's got to be painful, but some days my life can feel and look the opposite of what I'm actually called to. And sometimes that's actually the defining moment when you know what you're called for, is when you have adversity that's against your calling. Doesn't mean that you're not called. It's sometimes the adversity that comes against you is because you actually are called, and it's highlighting you. Sometimes the hardest thing that you need to do is actually the thing that you're called to do, and you need to be reminded of these kinds of things. But we'll go on. Last part, and we'll get some questions on this. See, I got you past the hard part. We'll go back to easy part. Reframing failure, because everybody's trying to avoid failure and they think failure is terrible. Failure is not a defining part of your life. It's something that you grow and you learn from. Let me ask you guys one of the questions that's out of here. Who would like to share, what is your greatest learning that you've gotten through adversity? What was an adversity that you experienced in your life, and the greatest learning that you walked away from that you still hold on today?
One thing that I've learned, as you mentioned, is failing at something doesn't necessarily mean that you're a failure or can't, accomplish that goal. So one thing that changed my perspective, and it has actually changed my life, is realizing that moving ahead, you may not always be successful in everything, the first time or in the beginning. You have to continue to be resilient, continue to learn and develop. So realizing that, just because my results do not look like the vision or the end goal, that doesn't mean that I should give up. Just continue to learn, grow, and learn from my, failures, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Does anybody have a specific experience of adversity that they gained a lot of learning from? And you guys can throw it in the chat too. I'll look in there if you guys.
For me, I was a crime scene tech for a long time, and even though I was succeeding as a crime scene tech, I was failing myself because my mental health was deteriorating. And the adversity was actually knowing when to walk away from what I was perceiving as success and move towards something that maybe was more perceived as failure, but for me was not a failure, even though from my coworkers' perspective, it was.
I love that. Thanks for being vulnerable and sharing that. What is, and what could you share? Like, how is that like a strength to you today? That what's it doing for you today as you're moving on to do something new?
I'm learning that I can power through a lot, and I'm putting that energy towards something that's helping me and my family directly instead of something that's just being eaten up by an administration that doesn't really care.
Wow, that is awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Anybody else have an adversity, a specific adversity that you learn from? Maybe your greatest learning? Might have even been something that you end up finding as a life message that you share to other people.
I have one, Paul.
Go for
it. When I was younger and looking for jobs, I would always hate writing my resume, going for interviews. I just always felt so fake and awful. And, I'd get to a certain point in the interview where I thought I was doing well. And then suddenly, they didn't hire me for the job. And I remember the last time it happened, I went through about 2 or 3 rounds of interviews. And then in the 4th, this man's face just changed. And I knew that was the point where I wasn't going to get the job, like the face changed completely. And I left and I thought, I will never again in my life put myself in a position where someone else decides what I'm worth. I will never write another resume. I will never give my resume to anyone else because this is stupid. And I never went back. I started working for myself and I haven't looked back, because what was seeming to me as a failure to be perfect for the job or to be the perfect person for whatever they wanted, it wasn't me, and it wasn't meant to be me. Those doors kept closing because they were pushing me in the direction that I needed to go, which was to work for myself, impact other people, and not be under anyone else. So
that's crazy powerful. That's like a motivational speech right there.
I'll work on my TED Talk and send it to you to edit.
No, seriously though, that's like, man, that's like everything.
Thanks.
Anybody else? An adversity, it may be something that you might even be grateful for that's contributed to your success. Because like for Penny, this has majorly contributed to her success now. So when you look back, an adversity, something that you made it through, that on this end, you've had your greatest learning or it's contributed to your success. Jasmine says, I learned pain is never wasted. It's always productive. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that pain in life or adversity isn't always, because sometimes people will be like, well, I think that God's just sending pain on me. I really don't think so. I think that the blessing on the other side is that what was meant to destroy us did not. and that we overcame those things. Some of you have overcame major things. And then some of us have just had adversity that we can look at, that it's just like, hey, that was part of, I made a choice and I stuck to what I said that I was going to stick through, or whatever. Samantha says, in high school, I almost did not pass the class. I would not have been able to walk. I kept studying and took the final with my teacher, who gave me a verbal test, and I passed. It made me never stop working hard. I love that.
Paul, I have one. It's Jennifer.
Go for it.
I turned my camera on. I was just, trolling people while I worked. So a few years ago, I had an uncle who lived with me who was, mentally challenged, and I looked out for him. And around that same time, I was going through a divorce. My uncle was unfortunately involved in an awful accident. He's okay now, but I had to make all of the medical decisions for him while going through a divorce, while working full time and going to school part-time. So I managed to graduate with honors, went on to get my bachelor's degree. And when I was talking to the admissions rep when I was pursuing my bachelor's degree, they said to me something to the effect of, are you sure you can handle this? Because this takes a lot of effort and a huge time commitment. And I remember saying to them, you have no idea what I'm capable of handling. Like, I worked full time and I did all of these things, and I battled multiple autoimmune disorders while all of this was going on, and I still didn't crack.
That's amazing. So what do you think is your greatest learning out of that, and how has it contributed to your success now in life?
I think, for me, like, I'm a recruiter, first of all, and so we're used to getting rejected. So that doesn't bother me. I think that you go through all of these things to make you stronger. And I think that your strength can serve as a catalyst for change for other people, to help them realize that they are actually empowered, that all of these things that happen are not to punish you, they're actually to make you stronger so that you can handle more difficult challenges that come your way.
I love it. Love it. Thank you for sharing that. See, and what she just said right there, and really what everybody's sharing in this particular question, is that what we want to do is that we ultimately want to reframe failure, and we want to reframe adversity in our life. But a lot of times people look at resistance as something that's going to destroy them, when the reality is that every one of us are living proof that we are sitting here today, and in spite of the resistance, that we have actually become who we are today, that we're living into something greater, because what was in us was actually greater than the thing that was out there that was actually resisting us and resisting our purpose. So as we're working with clients and as we're thinking through this in our life, is that there's some of these stories that some of you need to remember, that the calling in your life needs to feed you, needs to remind you every day. It needs to stir you. And some of your stories, you need to actually go back and revisit them and remind yourself of what adversity really has taught you about who you really are. Because you can't show up, like, it's going to be impossible for any of you to tell me that coaching's harder, starting a coaching practice is harder than anything that you've been through in your life. When I'm hearing a story about battling autoimmune, I know what that is, because I watched my wife. Some of you know that story in our life, that my wife, she almost died. We were only a handful of years into our marriage, and it was the reorientation of life that actually gave birth to a coaching business, and everything else out of it was literally out of that experience. During that, the family was going to be number one priority. I was going to reorient my life around a lot of different things and everything else. When you've went through that, I have somebody that I got a message from yesterday, that my wife and I are going to get together with this lady and her husband, because they know that story, because she's been dealing with autoimmune and she's been struggling and everything else, but she remembers a couple who overcame the adversity. And what can you tell us to help us to continue to move forward? What are the tools? How did you guys keep faith? How did you continue to move on? It's these kinds of things that you need to speak life to yourself about who you really are. You guys are not frail, weak individuals. When you leave a career where you are wanted, where there is esteem that you have built, I missed the name a while ago, but when you're leaving a prestigious career where you're watching on TV and you see crime scene investigation and all this, where you're leaving something to embark on something that you know is going to be more life-giving and everything else, and that is a learning, then you need to embrace who you are, because you've made bigger decisions than what it is to start a coaching career. You've actually done harder things than what we're getting ready to do. It's proof that there's readiness. There's proof that there's a life message. There's proof that there's actual grit in you, and that you guys need to be reminded about it, and it needs to give you life and enabling you to be able to move forward in this season of your life.
Hi, Paul.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing that. This is Dr. Marsh. I just wanted to let you know that I pulled your program up today because I wanted to join the October 29th, 30th, and 31st session. But those days weren't the best days. So I wanted to ask when you have another session, or if we, how I can do the boot camp in 3 days on any other day. And then I saw your program and I was like drawn to it. And I it's like 115 or 120, and I clicked on it, and there you were, helping us define our why, our purpose. And you helped me redefine mine in a whole, take it up a notch to a whole new level. One, my husband had a heart attack 10 years ago, and we changed our diet, and we all his lab values were within normal limits in 10 days. His exercise program he stuck to it. He showed, I'm a nurse, and he inspired me. And then when you said, find your why, you just opened up a whole new world. So I'm wanting to become a health coach. And my husband, he retired, and then he went back to work for the federal government. But I want to thank you for being so purposeful, for redefining the outer limits. The last part is that I worked in suicide and crisis intervention for 8 years at Cornell in New York. And it helped me get in touch with my inner fears, my inner feelings. And it was like, well, if they can if some of them almost committed suicide and bounced back after getting electroconvulsive therapy, then what's my reason for not pressing on? So what I did was I went to school. I worked full-time at Cornell, went to school, got my second bachelor's, and now I have my master's in teaching. I teach nurses, or have taught nurses. I finished my doctorate. I don't say this to brag, but it's been a long haul and a lot of suffering. And your program's just here right on time, and hearing all the encouraging stories from everyone, I'm going to reach back. I came to America from England a long time ago, sold real estate, done a lot of things. So here I am, and here you are. And I can't thank you enough. I've just started a heart, health, and home coaching business. And more to come, but thank you.
So powerful. Thank you for sharing that. That was encouraging to me. And that'll be a good segue. Since she asked the question, then I'll answer that. I'll just share on our website really quickly. We do have a boot camp that is our weekend boot camp that's October 28th through the 30th. For those of you who don't want to wait that long, or you're like, man, we have people who are on this chat. They can tell you how amazing boot camp is. It is really cool. But we also realize that some of you have lives and you can't just do a whole weekend, especially if you've worked all weekend and everything else. So what we did is that our life coach certification course, and you guys know that it's always been self-paced. It still is. But what we did is that we added on Live Tuesday training now. So tonight I'll be going live from 5 to 7 p.m. So at the same time that you can get, literally, it's the same training that we offer in boot camp, but you can access it self-paced, or you can join us, or you can do both. You can do self-paced and join us when you're free on Tuesday nights. What we do is that I walk you through every one of these modules: foundations of coaching, the anatomy of a dynamic coaching session, how to help your clients get extraordinary results, two sessions on how to listen on a transformational level, how to ask powerful questions, and how to establish a growing coaching practice. There's live coaching demos that we do. There's live Q&As. And as she was saying, yeah, the pricing is ridiculous. It's $195 for the life coach certification course. It's $247 for boot camp. The reason why boot camp is more expensive is because it's a weekend accelerated program. There is easy pay where you can get in for as low as $53 if it's kind of a challenge to start. But I'll also say, for those of you who need business development help, the best deal that we actually offer, that includes our coaching community and everything else, is this Jumpstart program. It's under the business mentoring link on our website. But Jumpstart includes the life coach certification course. So weekly training, certification. It includes the weekend boot camp. It includes a lot of other programs that you can see right here. Brand camp, the coaching product launch blueprint is included. All of these things, literally every one of our courses, with the exception of advanced skills training, is actually included in Jumpstart. And the pricing is ridiculous because you can see all the modules that are actually included by chapter. I'm not going to go through them all, but it's only $97 a month with a 3-month minimum commitment. Honestly, there's nobody, if you guys have looked around at coaching programs that's out there, no one is offering training, certification, business development help, live training, live support, because we do have a weekly group coaching call for the Jumpstart students who join us live. The community is extraordinary. You get feedback on the things that you're working on. You get all the steps on how to build your business properly, how to attract clients, how to discover a niche. I mean, it's really loaded. Matter of fact, there's more training and there's more support than you'll ever use in your life. But we want to make sure that you don't have any excuses with regard to the how-to, because it's all there. We'll show you how to build your coaching practice around you. We'll help you go after those confidence factors when it comes to, well, how do you actually do this, and what would my steps be? But the other thing is that we also know that it's not a how-to problem for a lot of coaches getting started. It's stuff that's going on here. It's belief systems and everything else. We go after those things, and it's done in community, because it's a community of people who are extraordinary, who, you know what, we celebrate failure, we celebrate wins. Every Wednesday call starts with wins, and it starts with people engaging on what they've been working on, and we give feedback, and we look at people's websites, and if there's training bonuses, we do all those things. It's $97 a month. I know what it's worth. It's worth over $10,000 easily, because most people are getting trained and certified between $2,000 to $10,000, and they don't even know how to get a client. And we're not going to allow you to not be able to thrive. We're not going to allow you to not be able to thrive as a coach. We're going to give you all the steps, and we're going to make sure that we're there. Can't guarantee your success. I can guarantee you that you'll have all the steps, and we're going to be there. And we're not going to allow you to just withdraw from what that's what this thing is about: resilience inside of community. If you want to do that, I'm going to put the link inside of the chat widget, and you can enroll. Any other questions that anybody had? Love all of the help today and everything else as you guys have engaged. You guys have been amazing, and I appreciate you a ton sharing your lunchtime with me. But is there anybody else who's got anything? I'll look. Somebody says their internet is dropping. Go for it.
Well, it's not. I've been with you since like 2018, and I just want to brag on you really quick because I haven't. I got certified in 2018, and I started with the Jumpstart, and so this is how legit you are. I started my in-home care agency, and I neglected life coaching altogether, and I was still paying the $97. And I called you. Well, I wasn't trying to call you, but you was just so happy to answer the phone. And you seen when the last time I logged in, and you refunded me a large sum of that money back. And so you operate in integrity and honesty, and I really do thank you for that, because you did not have to do it, because at that point I had just went through a divorce, so I needed all of them little $97 back. So I do appreciate you, because I told you that back in 2018, but here we are, fast forward today. I don't even know what made me hop on today, but you are a man of integrity, and I do appreciate that.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thanks for the reminder that, I mean, we do things like that, but but it's good to see a face and a voice for that and everything else. So I appreciate that, and it does matter, you guys. Integrity does matter, and I so appreciate that. Thank you.
Paul, Paul. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, go ahead, Doc.
Okay, thank you, sir. Paul, I just wanted to ask you, we're ready to go today. My husband says, go ahead, we got the money. So if the chief says go ahead, I'm good. But can we do the boot camp and then do the Tuesdays? And how long does the Tuesday sessions last?
Well, here's what'll happen when you enroll in boot camp. It will allow you to join on Tuesdays as well. So you actually get the best of both worlds. So that difference in price that's on there, it allows you to do the entire accelerated weekend, but it's also going to immediately give you access to the life coach certification course, so you can join on a Tuesday night. So so if you want to go about it that way, or just go through it self-paced on your own schedule until that boot camp weekend rolls around, what we try to do is that we just try to put your training in your hands and give you as much flexibility as we possibly can. So that would be great.
Thank you. How many Tuesdays do I have to do to get to the boot camp 3-day status, to get this certification?
Well,
I'm so excited.
Well, you don't have to do Tuesday nights at all. And that's one of the things I want to encourage you guys with. Everything that you have access to, you can, when you enroll, you get instant access. So you can go through it self-paced. And if you never wanted to join on a Tuesday, that's fine. What we did is that we want connection with our students, and we want to help people get clarity and make them feel supported, because we don't want to just be some internet school somewhere. We're people. We just happen to use this platform to be able to do that. So if you never wanted to join Tuesday and you just wanted to wait on boot camp weekend, you could do that. If you wanted to start today, start watching videos immediately, you can enroll in 90 seconds and then you'll have access to it. So it's however you choose to progress as quickly as you want through the material, or as deliberately as you want to go through it. It's all up to you.
Okay, well, thank you, Paul. What are the 8 hours for Sunday, and what are the 8 hours? What are the times for the Sunday 8 hours and the Saturday 8 hours and the Friday 8 hours?
Got it. So let me see if I can just grab that schedule. If you go onto that boot camp page, and for anybody who has other questions, I'm going to stick around and answer any other questions. So I'm going to go to actual boot camp page so that you guys can see the schedule for boot camp. It's actually at the very bottom of the page. So what we do is we start at 7. The Friday we have to start at 5 p.m. Pacific, which is 7 Central, 8 Eastern. And then Saturday and Sunday, it starts at 7 Pacific, 9 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. And so the schedule is exactly the same on both of those days. 7, 10, and 1, they're all different sessions. They build on one another, and they're all about 2 hours long. And then because they all end with a Q&A, so sometimes they might go a little bit longer, but we try our best to make sure you get an hour break in between each one of those sessions. And that's how it goes.
Okay, thank you all. So enroll today for the Tuesday, and that will encompass or include the boot camp at the end of the month.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Oh, did William have a birthday? Happy birthday, William. Way to go, man.
Thank you all.
Did somebody else have a question?
Yeah, Paul.
I had a question. I put it in the chat.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, it's in the chat.
What's going on, Paul? I'm a first time viewer, man. First time checking you out. My question is, man, do you feel that life coaching wears different hats, or can you clearly distinguish the difference between a life coach and a counselor, or do they kind of like, is there a gray area between those two, or yeah, I'll just end there.
Well, I distinctly define them differently. And usually on on a Friday night boot camp, or even like last Tuesday, that's always the first part of training, is to help understand what are the differences between helping roles. And just in bullet points that I would say, and I'm generalizing because I do know that we have people from a counseling therapy background. And so know that I'm generalizing when I say this, and I'm not trying to offend anyone. Counselors and therapists are usually asking a why question. Coaches don't really ask why questions. And even though I said a while ago, we're going to ask people their why behind their why and what's most important, is a different question than why, because it's usually a diagnosing question, or it's a question that kind of puts people, whenever you ask why, and it's just somebody, oh, why didn't you do that? Or why, what does it do? Is that it elevates you over the person, and now you're not in partnership anymore. Puts people in a defensive position. But in a counselor therapist role, you really do have an expert and you have a patient. And the patient, generally speaking, has a wound, they have healing, they have something that is, because how does medical insurance pay for something except that something's diagnosed, right? Something, it needs treatment. So what we're talking about is people who need to come into wholeness first, and it's about fixing a problem. It's about brokenness. It's someone who's not quite in wholeness. And the counselor or therapist is giving advice, or in general, what we would say is that in all of the other helping roles that exist in the world, it's all about giving advice to help people, or trying to convince someone of what they need to get changed. Coaching, on the other hand, really is not about giving advice, and it's not telling people what to do. It's actually helping that person draw out of their own resources, draw out of their own greatness, draw out of their own solutions. So really what we do as coaches is that we practice a lot of active listening, and we ask questions to draw out resources and insights out of that client. So it's more about the future. It's not about looking back. It's about being present future with a client, and helping them hold accountable for the options and solutions that they've come up with, and helping them design a plan around that, of like, some people don't know what's most important. You help them get clear on what's most important, what do they want, and achieve a goal in that kind of way. And we're dealing with whole people, not people who need treatment, because coaching is not a replacement for treatment, and it's not therapy. To the people who need healing, they do need to see a counselor or a therapist. And we don't go gray on that at all. We don't go into advising mode and then slip back into coaching mode, or try to counsel or whatever. We're in a transformational role that is dealing with people who operate in a high degree of wholeness, and they can get clear on what's most important and also what's in the way. And so that's why it's distinguished really differently, because we are looking, the focus point is very different. A counselor or a therapist is going to look from this person doesn't have resources, and I'm going to try to help them and give them resources to help them change or get out of whatever is going on. And a coach looks at a person as, this person has everything that they need. They're ingenious. They are whole. And what I'm going to do is I just need to create a structure to allow them to be the hero in their own story. And so I'm going to do that by asking questions, and I'm going to hold people accountable for what they say that they want in their life. So there's a lot of belief in this person's whole. They are a genius. They are the hero in their story, and I'm a guide, but I'm not telling them what to do. So hopefully, and I know that that's high level. You'd actually have to see it and experience it, but they are really, really different roles in someone's life, and they're both needed. But I'd still say that about 80 to 90% of people easily could be coached. And so we're not looking for people, because here's the thing, is that at the end of the day, especially for any person for that matter, but especially a person who's in wholeness, and not that everybody has all their ducks in a row, because everybody's got something, right? Like all of us, we don't all have our ducks in a row. But what we would say is that we are insightful enough to be able to figure out what it is. Like if I held up a mirror for someone, they would be able to say, I've got an eyelash on my eye. I've got something in my teeth, and I don't need you to tell me how to get the thing out of my teeth. I can actually figure out how to get it out and for my teeth to look like I want them to look. So what we're saying is that a coach is essentially creating a structure, and they're holding up the mirror, not to show themselves, but for that person to say, oh, I didn't see that there. I don't want that there. I want to remove it. And here's how I want it to look going forward. Here's the way I want it. Probably the best pictures that I can kind of give you to help you understand what the difference is in that. So hopefully that's helpful.
Yo, Paul, thank you so much, man. It's been enlightening. Just this first time watching and being a part of, definitely been enlightening. Just a follow-up question. Would you say that traits that a healer, I'm gonna call a counselor or a healer, you know what I'm saying, instead of a coach? Thank you for defining that too for me. Do you think that both coach and counselor have traits that overlap, that kind of help one another? I'm like, or attributes or you know what I'm saying? They're both great listeners, stuff like that.
There's a lot of transferable skills. Absolutely. The biggest challenge that I see for counselors and therapists coming in is that they've learned to hone their listening in a certain way. And so you really have to switch that, because you have to change the lens on how you see the person in front of you and how you're showing up and holding space with someone. So the skills are all transferable. And we do have a lot of counselors and therapists who get trained and certified through our program, and they add it on to their practices, because when someone gets to a high degree of wholeness that they're working with, which is the goal of counseling and therapy, is that the person wouldn't be getting it forever, that they would get into wholeness. Now, what do they need next? And so it makes sense for counselors and therapists. Some of them leave counseling and therapy behind completely, but a lot of them are just adding it onto their practice so that they can help them in that next stage and that next part of their journey. So that's what I see anyway.
Paul, you've been 100% awesome. And just I don't want to hog up the time here, but just finally to wrap things up for me, the reason I'm asking is because I definitely have so I just real short, I go live on TikTok. I know this sounds stupid, but I get a lot of volume and a lot of traffic. And what I found out over this last year that I've been doing so, right? I there's a lot of broken people, and then there's a lot of people that are more better off, that are kind of like more polished but no direction.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of these people, like some need coaching, other needs healing. But the reason why I'm here today is because my friend has been kind of just bragging on me, telling me that I'm misplacing my traits. So yeah, man, I'm just excited, man. I'm excited. Tomorrow I'm gonna join your boot camp today, right, at 5 p.m. Pacific time.
Yeah. So if you join either one, whether it's boot camp or the life coach certification course or Jumpstart, they all include Tuesday live training. So we'll start training. We'll be training tonight at 5 p.m. But you can also wait if you're like, hey, I just want the accelerated weekend. Then boot camp will be October 28th through the 30th. Just for if it's just, hey, I just want to start on Friday and be done by Sunday night. Then that would be the program. But if you're looking for, hey, but I will say, when you get enrolled, you'll have access immediately to all the material, as well as Tuesday night training as well. So it's always a perk.
For sure, man. Paul, thank you so much, and everybody in here, man. Thank you for being patient with me. And I'm just gonna listen. Thank you.
You're awesome, man. I'm glad you're on TikTok and doing those things, man. It's cool. This is an emerging generation, especially who are watching TikTok more than any, that need people who listen. They need people who can really hold space with them and everything else in there. And they're definitely, I'd say that one of the things that I always tell people is, as much information as we have out in the world, people are probably more clueless and more directionless and more uncertain than ever. And that's why we really all need to rise up right now in this time. If there was ever a need, we're not going out of style. We're actually in style right now for what we're trying to do and what we're trying to accomplish. So that's amazing. All right, everybody. Hey, I appreciate you guys immensely. I see that from you, Shamir, as well. I appreciate that. Thank you. Well, anyway, I'll stick that link in there one more time for everybody. If you want to get enrolled today, take about 90 seconds. And I will see some of you tonight, right? At 5 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. Listen, I appreciate you guys all immensely. This is the end of Power Lunch. Have a great rest of your week and take care.
Paul, wait,
Thank you, Paul.
Paul, wait.
Yes.
Can we can you keep the link up so we can enroll, please?
Sure. That link's
Okay.
right there in the chat. And I
In
can
the
also probably get our team to email it to you as well.
Okay, should I text my email to you?
Let's see.
I can just text it to you. Oh no, I can't. Oh yeah, yes I can.
Okay,
Here
cool.
I am. Oh, I got the link. I'll copy it. Thank you.
All right, you got it?
Yes, sir.
All
Bye
right.
bye. Thank
Well,
you.
have
all.
a great one,
Paul, thank you
everybody.
so much.
Take care.
Thank you,
Thank-
Paul. See you
Thank
tonight.
you.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you,
Thank
Paul.
you.
Have a great one, everyone.